Okay, well, no one knows Boston better than Tom Menino. Mayor Menino, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be with you. It's great.
No. Now, Boston is a great city. A lot of cities, though, have challenges, but Boston has thrived in the last 20 years or so and continues to. What do you attribute that to?
Well, Boston's a city that, unlike other cities, has 3 or 4 different economies that drive us. Healthcare, higher education, financial services, tourism, but also the hospitals and higher education really are the foundation of Boston. In 93, 94, 95, when the recession was really hitting its lowest point, Boston stayed even because of them, higher education and healthcare. And that's what the secret of Boston is. And, we are the youngest city in America between the ages of 20 and 34. And that's important too because, what happens in Boston in graduation time, 40% of the graduates stay in our city. They keep on feeding the Prudentials, the Bank of America, the John Hancocks and Liberty Mutuals, the brain power. They have to keep on replenishing that brain power of these major corporations. And that's what's unique about Boston. People want to stay here and move here and have a good lifestyle here.
That's crazy. And of course, 93, 94, 95 were your first years as mayor. And what were some of your big challenges as being mayor?
Well, first couple of years we had to, balance the books first. That was a big thing. I always believe if your finances work, your city works. And we had to get to that point also. The other thing, healthcare, we had to make sure we got a healthcare package that worked for the folks who worked at our city. That was important. And also work on changing the way we educated our children, because education is probably the most important thing you can do in your city, is educate the young people. And we start changing, doing the reforms in the Boston Public Schools. And, today, in 2014, we're much better off than we're. 20% dropout rate. Now we have about a 6% dropout rate. We have more kids going on to college. SAT scores are up. Our math and scores are much better than any other schools in America in 3rd and 4th grade. So, we're making progress. In talking about public education, we take all the kids. Some of these other kids that claim they have 100% this, 100% that, they don't take all the kids. We take special needs kids. We take English learners. That's a different situation. If you take all the best kids, it's easy to educate them.
What, as you look back, biggest disappointment in your years as mayor? What was something you wanted to accomplish but couldn't, or hoped to do but couldn't?
Well, eventually we did it. The waterfront was a thing that I was concerned about for a while. Then eventually, after about 10, 12 years, we got it done. Also built a new school headquarters in Dudley to help revitalize the whole Dudley Square area. That was an important piece of it. But in the beginning, we had 2 governors who disappointed us, who promised us to do it. And after that, I said, to the heck with the governors. We're going to do it ourselves. It's a $115 million building, which will be the headquarters of the Boston Public Schools, right in the community where most of the kids come from. That'll be a great asset for the students, for the headmasters, for the administrators, but also for the small businesses around there. It'll be a real revitalization of that whole area of our city. And that's a couple of things, the smaller ones that we had frustrated about, but I think those are the things I cared about the most.
Certainly Dudley Square and Blue Hill Avenue are much different now than they were then.
Oh, no question about it. We put an initiative when I first became mayor on the return of Blue Hill Avenue. When I was a kid, it was a thriving place to go. There was delicatessens there, there was bakeries there, but over the years, because of different reasons, it fell into disrepair. And we started putting some money back into it. Our community group, we trusted to help us design what was going on there, make decisions for us. Because over the years, what happened was, we had all these consultant reports. They never went anywhere. I had consultant reports up the yin-yang, and they weren't doing anything. And when I became mayor, I said, let the people in the community make that decision. And so we let the community people make the decision. We have some revitalization there. We have a shopping mall at Grove Hall. Never ever thought that would happen. And other things that happen along Blue Hill Avenue, which I'm very proud of.
You should be. And I remember you saying when you took office that we're going to take the city back street by street, block by block. And that's certainly something that we see happening in the city. It's not just the downtown, but it is these neighborhoods.
See, the strength of the city is downtown is very, very important. The strength of the city is your neighborhoods. If they're doing well, the rest of the city does well. If they're not doing well, people won't live there. And where are they going to work? So I always believe you invest in the neighborhoods. We had a Main Street program that came in that I created that was into all the small business districts of Boston, 19 of them, helped revitalize the small business districts because that's where people work, local people. You know, the big boxes, 60 cents out of every dollar goes someplace else. The big boxes, people live someplace else. But in the small retail shops, the restaurants, and other things like that, they live right in that neighborhood. And that's important. Create those jobs.
And do you think part of it is because you came from a neighborhood, Hyde Park, and so you brought a different perspective to the mayor's office?
I don't know if that was, my DNA is neighborhoods. I love neighborhoods. I did a lot of work in neighborhoods. I worked with the National Trust for Historic Preservation on the Main Street program originally, before I became a city councilor way back when. And I had to understand that, I remember when I was a kid, you see on Cleary Square shopping all the time. The stores down there they wanted to shop in. Over the years, they left. How do we continue to revitalize? Roswell Square was a hub of all activity. It was abandoned, a lot of abandonment there. I had to do something about that. That's why Main Street was a very important program to the revitalization of the city of Boston.
Now it's probably safe for you to give advice to someone who wants to be mayor of Boston. What kind of advice would you give to a prospective mayor?
Advice is cheap.
It is.
But I just say, if you're mayor of the city, you have to understand the diversity of the city. You have to understand the neighborhoods. You have to pay attention to the business community of Boston. But, Boston is the minority majority city. And you have to, as mayor, give everybody opportunity. And that's very, very important. You have to pay attention to the business community. Because you don't have a strong business community, you don't have a city. And then one thing I did is paid a lot of attention to the business community, made sure their needs were fulfilled. And that was important. And have people think have people believe in your education system. When I took over as mayor, people were fleeing the Boston public schools, didn't want to be there. And now we have a lot of schools that are over-enrolled. That tells you something about what's happening in the Boston public schools. So those are some of the things. And, be a good listener. Be a good listener, willing to listen to people every day, find out what they're thinking. When you go to City Hall, the City Hall will tell you, people work at City Hall, they'll give you their own ideas about that. But go to the coffee shops, go to the donut shop, other places. Find out what people really think. That's how you get your gut feeling what's going on in the city. You need that. You don't need these studies and all that stuff because that's the theory. What's the real thing happening? That's how I got it. In the morning I used to stop at 3 or 4 coffee shops going into City Hall. I didn't drink coffee. I just want to hear what people are saying so I can understand what the issues were. Because reading the paper, that's sometimes not the issue. It's what people think about. And I always say that the most important issues you have to deal with the quality of life issues, like the break-in your car, your broken windows, things like that. Those are the issues that people really care about the most. That the quality of life issues are dealt with on a regular basis. And that really builds a stronger city.
Someone said that you can't be mayor of Boston from City Hall, or you can't run the city from City Hall.
Oh, you can't.
And I know seeing you at so many events, and I remember being at an event at Dorchester, and someone said that you were talking to a lot of the kids, and all of them had met you before.
Yeah, I love that. It's the best part. The thing I miss most not being mayor is the kids. I devote a lot of my time to the children of Boston, and I want to make sure that I continue to do that. I created a summer camp for kids, Camp Harborview, and
On Long Island.
On Long Island. It's fabulous. I work on a scholar athlete program to get kids to get their achievements at school up so they can play in sports and qualify for college. I created a playground over at Charlestown next to Spalding, which is for special needs kids and regular kids. And those are the things, get them active, have them involved, have something going on. So parents get involved also.
Could you talk a little bit more about the Long Island camp, how that came into being and what that...
Well, that's Camp Harborview was a camp of young people from 11 to 14, too old to be young, too young to be old. And so this year, about 8 years ago, we had a real problem with kids from 11 to 14 in violence. And so at the end of the summer, I got frustrated. I called a friend of mine, Jack Connors. I said, Jack, take a ride with me. Let's go to Long Island. So we want to go there. I want to show you something. We had this big plot of land. It was old campgrounds. I said to him, I want to build a summer camp. He said, what do you know about summer camp? I said, I know nothing. He said, I don't know anything either. How are we going to do it? I says, if you got the will, we'll be able to do it. And he said, let me think about this. So he called me up 2 weeks later. He says, give me the plans of the land and I'll raise some money for it. And we were able to raise enough money to open the camp within 107 days, which is amazing. And Suffolk Construction did all the work. And it's interesting about the workers. They pitched tents out there so we could open up on July 5th. So kids wouldn't miss one day of camp. We built a 107-day camp. You know, the buildings all had built, the field had been leveled off, all that stuff was done perfectly. And it's been a great thing. We have 400 kids in July, 400 kids in August, and we track these kids all year round, not just in the summertime. And we help them get into college. We give them tutoring, literacy programs, all those things, which are important to the youngsters.
And you've been involved with youth sports, other...
Oh yeah, you know, like Scholar Athlete, I'm involved in that program, which is a great program. Takes kids in high school who might not doing well and get their grade level up so they could get into college, but also play sports. And we have, you know, we used to have a lot of 4-footers in the Boston public schools because we didn't have the kids to play sports. Now we only have about 27 the whole year, which is amazing. But the more important to me is the scholastic ratings have gone way up. That's important, you know. They're giving them opportunity. You're a good athlete, but you have to get off that ball field, and you have to work for a living, you have to get education. And that's the important part of the Scholar Athlete program. They give them both, the scholarly piece and the athletic piece.
And you actually went to college while you were working in...
I went to the University of Mass while I was a city councilor.
Yeah.
I was a late learner. It's a long story, I can't tell you now.
That's good. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
Now, also, while you were mayor, we had the Big Dig and the harbor cleanup, two really major events that have impacted the city in positive ways. Can you tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, well, I took over the Big Dig in 1993, and all the economists said to me, Boston's going to die because of the Big Dig. You know, it's going to disrupt the whole city. Well, it did disrupt the city, but people didn't realize they'd bring engineering companies to Boston, planning people, construction company, they'd buy product in our city. They're really an attribute to our city, even after all the, you know, every day driving one way, the next morning a different way. But it was great for Boston. And you see the Greenway now, it's a beautiful green space in the middle of our city, and that's very special. And I think it's a great asset to our city, but we have to thank the people in Washington. They funded it 90-10. We didn't spend no city money there. And then the cleanup of the harbor. I remember as a kid, you couldn't sleep and swim in the harbor, go fishing. And now because of the stuff we did at Deer Island, we're able to swim in the ocean, go fishing there, and it's a great place for enjoyment now. And it took a lot of time, took a lot of federal money, but we got there.
What do you think you're proudest of as mayor?
I think
you don't need to narrow it down.
No, you know, being proud. You know, I did what I had to do. Nothing special. I dealt with the diversity of our city. I dealt with the education of our children, the financial piece. We created housing. We created about 30,000 units of housing while I was mayor. We did all those things. It was just a combination. You saw a problem, you try to fix it. You know, you don't have a master plan where you can't go off the master plan. Too many people in my business have a plan and we're going to work our plan. Well, plans change and ideas change and needs change. And we changed it as we went along. If we saw a problem in the neighborhood, we go there and address that problem right away. Housing problem, we got some of the city land and made it into housing. We had some land that was designated for developers for 30 years. And I said, we're going to take it away from you unless you develop within a year. We got them to develop within a year. Things like that, you know, a lot of different things made the city what it is today. And the people are special. Boston's people are very special people. No other city, we're a big city, we're a small city, we're a city of neighborhoods. Everybody knows each other. When somebody gets hurt, everybody gets hurt. And we have all feelings for each other, unlike other cities in this country.
Now, do you make enemies when you're in politics?
Of course. I always make enemies, yeah, because you make decisions. You know, the thing is, if you're an elected official in a decision-making position, you have to make decisions. Somebody's going to get mad at you. But that's leadership. You get up there and think what's right and take the hits, what happens, and move forward. If you don't make decisions, you get in real trouble. And I always believe in making decisions, and you know, it carried me through. People, you know, trusted me, and my decisions were the right decisions, and that's why I was able to do some things on gay rights, which I was a leader on that. Which I come from Hyde Park, which is a very conservative neighborhood. I took that issue on, and you know, didn't get any static at all. You know, and things like that. Yeah, the merger of a hospital, a public hospital and a private hospital. Never happened in this country. People said couldn't do it. We did it. It took us 2 years, but we got it done. Things like that. You know, you take on these positions you believe in, you know they're good for the city, and you move forward on them. That's what real leadership is.
Does being in politics have an impact on your family?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of nights away from home, a lot of vacations not taken, and sometimes the harassing phone calls in the middle of the night. But my family was great. My wife, my kids. My kids were teenagers and got older as I progressed in my career. My wife was a stalwart. She went to a lot of the events that I couldn't go at, and she became a leader in the women's movement. And she enjoyed it. Never way out front, but she's very supportive of these programs all over. Dress for Success, which is a program that dresses young women up for job interviews. So she's big on that. The Women's Lunch Program.
And she works full time too.
Well, she worked mother's hours, 9 to 3. Because when she started, she wanted to be there she wanted to bring the kids to school and be there when the kids came home. But after the kids got out of school and college, she still had mother's hours. I can't figure it out, but that's okay.
A little bit about some of the people either who influenced you or that you worked with or that...
Well, my mother and father are probably my biggest influence, of course, in life. I lived on Hyde Park Avenue, and a Menino family owned a 6-family house that a lot of folks from Italy came to live at. And my mother was the person, like Mother Teresa. She helped them take care of their children, how to get a job, and all the problems. I learned from her a lot about how to take care of do those social services. And my father was a guy who just worked in a factory and a supervisor, but he got respect from his workers. I always believe respect is so important. Give respect to get respect back. And they had more influence on me than most. But I've been lucky. I met the Pope. I was with the Pope a few times. I stayed at the White House with President Clinton a couple of times, with George W. Bush, all the presidents. I worked with Jimmy Carter. I'm a lucky guy. The governors here and the people. But I should tell you, the people I like the most are the people who work in the shelters and those people, because they really give up their time. They do it for not a lot of money, but they make a difference in people's lives. That's important. And the teachers. Let me tell you, teachers and nurses are my favorite people, really. Nurses, when you're in the hospital sick, your doc isn't there, the nurse is there. And teachers teach us how to be educated. That's important.
Now, Boston's political world's been dominated by people of Irish descent. And I think since 1930, you're the first...
First Italian American. Yeah. Probably the last one, too.
Yeah. Any real challenges being Italian American?
No, Boston's a fair city. Let me tell you, I wasn't elected just by Italians. I was elected by everyone. I mean, look at my votes all over the city. I did well every neighborhood of the city of Boston when I first ran. And, Boston's a very understanding city. It likes to work with people who they think could do a job for them in the right manner. But I was fortunate. I was very fortunate by the voters of Boston getting elected so many times. And, but that's what the people of Boston are. They're good, caring people, and they care about the city. They want to be involved in the city, and they only want a fair shake.
Mm-hmm. And you and President Clinton and Senator Kennedy had lunch at Mike's Diner.
Yes. I got stiff for that bill. We're announced, the president came out to announce a program, a COPS program, money for the COPS program in the city of Boston. And so we're out there at the, in Roxbury at one of the community centers. And the president's staff says to me, the president wants to go to lunch. I said, okay, I got a place. No, we want to go I wanted to, this is the person who works for the president, we're going to go to one of the hotels downtown, like the Ritz one. I said, no way, we're not going there. We're going where I want to go. Well, no, the president won't go there. I said, go ask him. And the president said to his staff, wherever the mayor wants to go, we'll go. So we went to Mike's Diner on Washington Street and Mass Ave. And so we go in there, Teddy, he was with us, Teddy Kennedy, Bill Clinton and myself, right? We sit down and have breakfast. The bill comes. Neither one of those guys had any money in their pocket. I picked up the bill. That's typical. That's why they have money and we don't have money. But it was great. I mean, it's a funny story, but it's a true story. And then the following weekend with Al Gore, we're going to breakfast. Before I go in the doorway, I said, Mr. Vice President, you got any money in your pocket? Because I'm not getting stiff this week. And he's like, but I'll pay. But, those things. I mean, I've had the opportunity to stay at the White House a couple of times, and George W. Bush asked me to get down there a couple of times. Even though I'm a Democrat, I was fighting to get funding for Washington Beach housing development in Rossendale. I got it. I got $26 million out of the Bush administration, which people said I couldn't do, but I did. And things like that. You develop relationships. That's what this is all about. And people trust you. Know you're doing the right thing by the people. You're not for yourself. It's for the people. That's important.
There's a story that Jim McGovern tells about Joe Moakley when he first became a member of Congress. And McGovern said, "What advice do you have?" And Moakley said, "Get to know everyone in the room by their first name. Know who their wives are, know who their families are, and that's the way you get things done." Is that a Boston thing? Because he said Boston is, in many ways, a small town.
Yeah, it's a big city, but it's a small city.
Yeah.
We know each other. And I grew up in Boston all my life, so I know most of the people, a lot of people in the neighborhoods, so in different neighborhoods. And you just develop relationships. And, people want to gravitate towards you, too. You know who the real people are and the fakers are? The people who care about what's going on in the neighborhood. And, they don't make a lot of noise, but they get the job done. And the guys who make all the noise don't want to do anything. They just want to cause trouble. You push them aside. You want to get the guy out there who really cares about his family and is raising kids in the neighborhood, have a job and have a house. That's what I cared about. Not the noisemakers. Noisemakers, they come a dime a dozen. They don't do anything. They just destroy everything you try and make out. It's the hard-working people of our city who made Boston work.
That's why you always got my vote.
Thank you.